bake with me sourdough bread start to finish. We're gonna feed the starter and then we're gonna go all the way through to fresh bread out of the oven. The recipes and the details below. It comes from Bake with Jack. I love his enthusiasm and his recipe. If you want to watch a professional do it, go watch his really long sourdough video. If, however, you want to see not a professional do it, because maybe you're not a professional, then you can watch me do it. You can even go ahead and get out all of your ingredients and you can do it with me along the video, just pausing as you go. I did that several times with Bake with Jack. I thought it would be fun. Kids are over here eating donuts. I thought it would be fun to do it myself. I've had a couple people ask who are just locals that I've given sourdough starter to. So if you're a local and you need a starter, then let me know and I'll pass you a starter. Another thing you should know is that through this entire video, my kids are here, they are helping, they are filming, they are around. So you will hear children everywhere all the time, and I can't always edit them out, and eventually they will be helping me more with videos. So I'm not apologizing, I'm just making you aware. Okay, the next thing you need to be aware of is that in this recipe I am only making one loaf, and the recipe that will be in the description is for only one loaf. However, I pretty much always double it. I keep the times the same, but I double the recipe for 2 loaves. If you are doing one loaf and you want it to maybe rise up a little bit bigger than mine is, then I would recommend cutting the times just a little bit. Now, it does depend on how warm your kitchen is, but I'm just putting that disclaimer out there that for one loaf, I tend to shorten it. Even for 2 loaves lately, I have started shortening it just a little bit so that it rises more in the fridge and, you know, will rise more in the oven too. So that is just my disclaimer. The other disclaimer is that since recently I've been using a chopstick to stir my starter. I've done that from time to time, but I may have recently had a child break a glass jar while they were stirring, so we've switched to chopsticks. So you might want to do the same. I think that is all the disclaimers before you watch the video. If you want to do this with me, go ahead and pause. At this point, now that I've done a couple of introductions before the recipe, my video is probably just as long as Bake with Jack's. So there you have it. I hope you will give it a try and bake with me. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do one video and do all the sourdough stuff in one. So I'm going to show you on this video and for me the consistency that I start with. Stay on it. So I don't know, pancakey. There's just a little bit. That's probably more than what I typically keep. But it's pretty good. And then you're going to zero it out. And depending on how much you use is how much you want to feed it. You want to feed it equal parts. So if I need 100, I'm going to feed it 50 and 50. I want to do water first. I measured this earlier and it was 50. We're going to pretend like that's 50. And then you're going to do 50 of this. If I wanted 200, I would just do 100 and 100. So super simple. Now, depending on how much you want to get in the end may determine how long it's going to take to rise. So right now, I have gotten ready for bed and I'm going to feed it and then I'm going to go to bed. And in the morning, I will bake with it and I'll show you. Okay. So now, again, it can be thicker or it can be thinner. I have found that if it's thicker, it may not rise as much, but you can tell that it's ready because it gets really, I don't know, bubbly and thick. Okay, so that's it. Stir it really good. Scrape the sides down and then you have your rubber band. Let's say it's down here. Normally I feed it double, so I have more. And you're gonna just do it to. Okay, so it's morning. Still in my pajamas. It's been maybe 11 hours. This one's a little more liquidy. You can see little bubbles here, and that it has doubled. So once it is doubled, you can use it. Now, you have to be careful when it's summer like this. You can look at the top of it. You can look down in it, that's fine. It has not fallen any. It's still pretty thick. There's nothing like, I don't know, loose on the top of it. So you do have to be careful in the summer letting it go too long. So 11 hours is kind of a long time. I'm surprised it hadn't fallen any. Okay, you can just get the ball now, Anna. So our recipe, I was looking over here, it's well loved. So I measured out the water last night. I typically always double this recipe, but I'm not doubling it for you today because for those of you who aren't used to sourdough, I don't want you to make double. It's better just to make single and practice, get the hang of it, and then do more. So I measured out 310 grams of water last night. Has to be filtered water or boiled water and then sat out. So just to make this a little bit quicker, I did that last night. Then I did 100 grams of starter, and you can do like a float test to see if yours is ready. I don't do that. I just use it. And sometimes I do it in the morning, and then just in 4 to 6 hours when it's doubled, I will use it. So I like to go ahead and stir in my starter. Well, I'm trying to help her be able to see in it, but I don't want you looking down in it, but I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So I mix the starter in with the water. I love this Danish dough hook. It makes it really easy. And then I'm gonna tare and add in my flour, and I need 450 grams. Can you see? Well, sure. Just don't touch Mommy's scale. That's okay. Okay, my girls are up helping this morning. Almost put a little too extra. I should have pre-did this, so I'm trying not to make the video too long and just show you basically how easy it is.
Can I touch that?
Yes, you can touch that. Thank you for
Can
asking.
I do this?
Okay, and it's done. Okay,
There you go.
so
And
I won't need the scale until later for the salt, but basically all I have right now is water, flour, and starter. Hang on just a second. And I want you all to see how easy it is to come together. Oh, good job, Jolie. Can you still see it on? I'm gonna have to go the back way. So I'm gonna quickly stir on his video in it for us, okay? Yeah, stir the starter, good idea. So I'm just gonna use this, and I just wanna bring it all together until it's well incorporated. Once it's well incorporated, I'm gonna let it sit for 30 minutes, and then I'll come back and add the salt and kind of do a stretch. So basically, you don't have to do a lot of work. It does all the mixing for you, and that's one reason that I love sourdough bread. I just recently did a bread with yeast the other day, and I had to like knead it forever, and I just was like, oh, this is, I don't know, with sourdough I just let it sit all day and it does its thing. So yeah, so in 30 minutes me and the girls will come back and we'll show you what to do next. Okay, so it's roughly been, spray my hands, or dip your hands in water, run them into the faucet. I just try not to use as much chlorine water. It's been roughly 30 minutes. We've eaten breakfast, been outside, so I haven't timed it exactly, but it doesn't have to be exact. I did weigh out 8 grams of real salt. We can talk about that another day, but I use Redmond's real salt, and I think it was like 8 grams. And then you're just gonna stretch it and kind of mush it. If it gets sticky, spray your hands. And then you can spray the dough to make the salt go in, and you smush it. You can spray it next time. I already sprayed it. Can you spray it for me though? Can you spray the cabinet for me?
My tool.
Okay, so you just stretch it all the way around. I'm so not used to, if I'm gonna go to this much trouble. Hang on just a second. Oh, my hand is sticky. Here, spray it one more time. So if I'm gonna go to the trouble of making the dough, I'm going to make at least 2 loaves. So this little bitty, oh thank you. This little bitty bit of dough seems really funny to me. But I feel like 1 loaf is good just to keep letting you practice. Okay, so we're gonna let it rest. Okay, so it's been about 2 hours, maybe a little longer. It's lunchtime, so I'm in the kitchen anyways. I've had it covered with a thing. Jolie's gonna spray my hands. Spray my hands, Jolie. Oh, thank you. Okay, now I got this little gadget. It's wonderful. I think I got it at Walmart. Came in a pack of a bunch of different stuff. And I use it to loosen it from the edge. I can spray my counter, dump it out on the counter and stretch it, or I can do it in the bowl. So I'm gonna we'll dump it next time. Spray mommy's hand again. Normally I dump it, but spray my fingers. Sorry, this is making it a little bit longer. There we go. Okay, so you're gonna get your fingers wet, and it says about 12 stretches. So you're gonna go around like a clock, and you're going to stretch up and go down. See how stretchy it is? It's going to continue to get more stretchy. This also helps incorporate the salt more that we added earlier. So you might see some streaks of salt. Should be completely mixed in at the end.
Yep.
Okay, so that is one good thing about dumping it out, is you make sure that nothing on the bottom is kind of getting loose. Okay, so it's back into a ball. That simple. Now I cover it. I'm gonna wait another 2 hours. Okay, so it's been, I guess, the 2 hours. Here's our nice soft, oh, it is very sticky, nice soft dough. This time I'm going to show you how to do it on the counter. I'm going to loosen it. And then I'm going to dump it out on the counter. Now, normally, I guess I should have showed you this. I forget. But this has been the bottom, so I'll flip it over. Oh no, that's right. Never mind. Okay, so we now have it. Basically, I don't want to get the air out of it. I just want to stretch it and, oh goodness, sorry, stretch it and fold it in. That was bad. When you're just used to doing it, you just do it. When you show people, we're gonna do about 6. Kind of make it into a loaf. See how stretchy and soft and squishy it is? Oh, it's so fun to play with. Stretch and wrap it. If I want to, I can fold this over too. Basically, see, I'm keeping all these bubbles, all these nice things. I'm just rolling it into a, you know, giving it a little stretch, getting the, I don't know, that's why I don't have to knead it at all. I just do that, and then I can spray it on the top to keep it moist and cover it, and I believe it sits for an hour. I would go ahead and wipe your counter down, because if you're not careful, that stuff is so gluey. So I'll leave it here, and then we'll shape it again in a minute. So I do have an overnight recipe that I got from somebody else that I use, but if I'm at home, I think this is the easiest way. It makes bigger, softer bread because you're just stretching it every couple of hours, and then you pop it in the fridge tonight and cook it in the morning, or I could cook it tonight, but that's the way I like to do it. So, okay, so this is called the pre-shape. Can you tell how much bigger it is? Anna's still doing my filming. She's doing a great job. Okay.
Hope so.
So, well, I haven't watched it, but I'm sure you're doing a great job. So we're just gonna pull it out. I'm trying to pull it so you can see it, but I can't really see it that way. Okay. Whoop. There we go. Okay, again, we're gonna do it with water. So this is gonna be our pre-shape. And I'm trying to think. think of what I'm doing. Okay, we're gonna pull it into a ball. Look at this. I mean, it's just so squishy. It's maybe not as stretchy, but it is
pretty stretchy.
really stretchy. So I'm gonna turn it, put it in a ball. The recipe that I'm using, the guy has a long video that basically does exactly what I'm doing. His is better than mine because obviously he is a professional. He does this for a living. His name is Bake with Jack. But I'm doing this because people have asked and I've always shared that video. I have done this in, a couple videos before, but never done it all in one, I don't think, not recently. So I'm doing it for you now. Hopefully,
all those bubbles.
Not so close. Hopefully it'll be shorter than his, but yeah, lots of bubbles. I don't even know if, kind of don't think this is tight enough. So you want it to be really tight. Try not to bust all the bubbles. And then you twist and scooch. See how I'm scooting with my hand? Like I'm tucking the bottom under, and as I twist, it seals it off. So it will sit here. I'm gonna cover it with a little, let me grab it. I'm gonna cover it with a little soft towel like this that's not fuzzy so it doesn't stick. And it will sit there for an hour, and then I'll shape it one more time, and then I'll put it in a dish. So there you go. Okay, so you're probably tired of seeing me now, but we're almost done. Okay, so here is the bread. It's probably been around an hour, and I don't know why you do flour with this step. Like I said, Bake with Jack has a really awesome video. I'm only doing this just because I'm about to make some changes that I'll tell you all about a different day, but I'm about to make some changes, so I wanted to do one video like this for everybody, a full one if possible. So I maybe should have done it even tighter because you saw how flat it got. Okay, so typically I put it, let's see, in, you can get a bread basket, or I use a big colander like this and I put my towel in it and then I put the bread on it. Or if I want to do a sandwich loaf, I just grease it with coconut oil or butter or olive oil, so whatever I have on hand. So this time I'm going to wrap it a little bit different. So I'm going to fold it down, I guess a third, and I'm folding, you saw me flip it over. The side that was exposed to the air is hard. The side that was on the bottom is sticky. So when I pull it out, it doesn't deflate it. We want to keep the bubbles in there. You don't want it too bubbly because you don't want to slice it and have big holes in your bread, but you do want it to be light and fluffy, not super dense. So I fold it in a third, and then I'm going to, I call it the diaper fold. Anna calls it the diaper fold. I'm going to pinch just the corners down, and then I'm going to roll it. Pull and roll, pull and roll, pull and roll, and there you go. You've got your roll at the bottom. Cut my flowers. So I'm going to roll it over just to show you. Here. So my seam is now right along there. So if you want to, you can make sure that you pinch it, but it's going to be sealed because we just rolled it here. And now I can tuck the ends under, kind of make it a little bit shorter. And then, see, I can still do it this way and this way, make it wrapped a little bit tighter. Then it fits really nice in my pan. So now I will cover it with this towel and I will leave it overnight in the fridge. Hopefully it will rise a little bit. I like it the best when it comes all the way up to here, and then it will rise a little bit more once it gets into the oven. But I haven't paid super close attention to the times today. But I think that's okay because I want to show you why I love sourdough bread, and I want to show you that I like it because the times you can kind of mess with it and it still turns out at the end. Now, it isn't always pretty, but it's very tasty, and that's the point. So, okay, so we finally made it to the end. So I still can't figure out what causes this to come up further. I think if I leave it a little bit shorter on during the stretch and folds, then I think it still has some more oomph to, you know, rise it more. It did, I mean, this part is almost up to here, I guess, but you can see it's not fully up. Josiah, you want to be in it today? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut it. This has been in the fridge. So I took it out this morning, let it get kind of room temperature, a little bit cooler. This little cutty thing is amazing. I normally use it like this and just score it, but I have found that with the edges of these pans, it kind of knocks against it. So if I'm doing a round loaf, then I use it as it's intended. If I'm doing a pan loaf, then I try to just do it myself. And that's not the best score, but it'll do. So you want it to be kind of at an angle. You're too close on it. At an angle, Mama, and fairly deep.
Mama.
So I'm not gonna tell you the times and the degrees that I'm gonna cook it, because I do it different every time based on how it's looking. So I do have it on convect oven, so it kind of blows air in there, and I'm going to spray the top. And I'll put it in,
Mama,
and I'll tell you what I do when I take it out of the oven. Okay, so it came up out of the pan. I'm pretty happy with that. And I just typically cool it on a rack like this. This is our old microwave rack. I have no idea why microwave has a rack in it. But I use this. I even use, I will sometimes prop this across my cast iron skillets on the stove, or I put it into the microwave and I let it cool in there. We currently don't use our microwave anymore, so I use it for bread storage or cookie storage, stuff that is up high enough out of the way so that the little kids aren't eating it. And I leave it on a cutting board and I just take it out and put it back in. So we will keep this loaf. Typically, you know, I do 2 loaves, so I'll keep the 2 loaves in there sometimes 3 to 4 days, and then I will slice it up, and what we haven't used, then I slice up and I put it in a freezer Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer. Typically, we will eat 1 loaf in a day, so it just depends on how much we eat. If we use this in 2 days, then we'll move to the next loaf. Sometimes, depending on the week, if I have 2 loaves, I'll slice up 1 whole loaf and go ahead and freeze it, and then we'll just eat on this one throughout the week. So just kind of depends on your lifestyle, when you want to eat the bread, when you're going to use it, but we love to put it in the freezer. And then when it is time to go, we have just sitting over there, we have a little stove top. I think it's like an Omni Instapro or something, and it is like an air fryer dehydrator type thing, but we put our bread in there on reheat from the freezer, and it just reheats and we can use it immediately. So for us, that's the best way to store bread. But the tricky thing about sourdough is everybody has a different lifestyle. Everyone's house is a different temperature. Your oven cooks different, so it kind of is, you have to play with it a little bit. So let me tell you how I cooked the bread while I'm thinking about it. So when I cook it in an open thing like this, I cannot cover it, obviously. So a lot of sourdough loaves, if I do a circle loaf, I put it in a pan and I cover it with a lid, and I'll leave it in there 15-20 minutes, and then I take the lid off and let it finish cooking and let it brown. You want the internal temperature to be 200 degrees. I don't typically measure it. I've just played with it over the time, and I kind of know now what I'm looking for. But when I do it in a loaf like this, I put it in the oven on convect oven, so it's convection, so it's blowing heat everywhere. I heat it up to 450, and then I will cook it on the top rack for 15 minutes, and then after 15 minutes, I move it to the lowest that I can do it, because my heat element is up top. If your heat element's up top, you want to move it low. If your heat element is down low, you want to move it high. So you just want to move it away from your heat source. So after the convect heat for 15 minutes, I turn it on bake, so it's no longer blowing air. I move it away from the heat source, and I cook it another 25-30 minutes, just depending on how brown it is. If I feel like the top is browning too quickly, I will put aluminum foil over top of it to prevent it from burning. But today I did not have to do that, and it turned out fine. The bottom sounds a little hollow, looks nice and brown. If I want this to be golden like this, I can rub a little butter on the top or oil, and it will brown it up and make it a little bit softer. So yeah, this is not a fancy loaf by any means. There are a lot more sophisticated recipes and different things out there. But for us, this is very simple, very basic. It takes a couple days to do it, and we have fresh bread. Like I said, you could have baked this last night if it wasn't too late. The whole process is about 7 hours. So if you do it earlier in the day, you can bake it in the evening, but I typically bake it whenever we're about to eat it. So I'll do it this morning, and then we'll eat it for lunch. We do love nice, fresh, warm bread out of the oven. And if I know that we're gonna eat the whole loaf, I will go ahead and slice it. But if you want the freshest, best bread, then you wanna let it cool completely down so that all the heat, all the heat goes away, and then you can slice it. So what I have heard is if you leave it like this, it's gonna stay fresh. But when you start slicing it while it's still warm, a lot of your moisture will come out of the bread and go out into the air. So don't cut it if you can, and then you can eat it. When I do a cinnamon swirl, like raisin bread or cheese swirl, I eat the cheese immediately because it's wonderful. It's nice and melty and delicious. So yeah, I think I've told you about everything. I do have an overnight recipe. I think I may have already mentioned that in another recipe. So if you're busy and you're not at home, you can do sourdough. You don't have to be home for 2 days in order to do it. There are other ways around it, but this is the fun, easiest recipe that I have found. So I hope you'll try it. Okay, so it is fully cooled. I forgot to show you the inside. Here is the inside. I think that's a pretty good loaf. I think it's gonna make a great sandwich. The holes aren't too big, so your butter or jelly or mayonnaise doesn't fall through, and it's still big enough to give you a good sandwich, and you're only eating flour, water, salt. Pretty cool.